going on, everybody? Just gotta fix the damn thing all the time. It's your favorite dating coach, Elliot Scott, and as you can see by the title below, we're going to talk about men who are fearing to jump into a relationship, who are fearing to commit, open up, so on and so forth, okay? So before we get into it, if you can, please subscribe. Just click the red button below, and I'll love you forever. Now, this comes from someone in my comment section, okay? And they asked, can I make a video about men fearing relationships, fearing commitment, and those type of things. And here's the thing, I'm guessing you're asking if guys are using that excuse when you ask them about a relationship or getting into one or something like that. And here's the thing, are there guys out there who fear relationships, opening up, getting attached, and getting screwed over? Yes, just like there are women out there who are afraid of opening up, being vulnerable and things like that, because you know both sexes, uncertainty and unstableness is a very unattractive trait. That's why we look for it heavily in both sexes. When someone pulls away, you're like, fuck man, I'm screwed. I really like this person, you know, they screwed me over. What am I gonna do? Yes, there are men like that. However, I feel like men are a lot different with that concept than women. While women will also jump into relationships when they fear it, you know, just to see what happens, I feel like men do it a hell of a lot more. I feel like men, even though they might fear, and you're gonna see why I'm putting quotations around that, you know, a relationship or opening up or commitment or something like that, I feel like they're going to, if it's the right woman, they're going to jump into it anyway and make it happen, okay? Now, of course, when he jumps into it, he's going to go day by day dealing with this bullshit, because, you know, you just can't jump into a relationship and think the red flags are going to disappear. So this guy might call and say, who you hanging out with? You know, are you with your girls? I don't like you hanging out with Susie. Susie's a slut. You know, all the shit guys say, right? You know, what about your guy friends? Or why don't you text me? You know, all these red flags. You know, he ain't texting back fast. Whatever it is, right? Red flags. However, I feel like a guy, for the most part, will jump into a relationship and deal with those things, then make the excuse of not being in one. Especially, again, if it's the right girl. There's no reason for a guy not to jump into a relationship if it's the right girl and deal with these things, than to actually step back and let another guy take her in. And the reason I say that is because if you look at from an evolutionary standpoint, survival replication, you know, not only does a guy have an advantage when he picks up an attractive woman who has assets, not liabilities, rewards, not risk, you know, value, not red flags. I talk about all that stuff all the time. Not only does he get an advantage over other guys because this woman's scarce and she's valuable, but it's also a defensive move. He's also playing defense by taking her off the field. Other guys can't have her and have an advantage over him. And again, the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest, most heart-wrenching emotion or feeling in the world is regret. Regret is the most, like, I fear regret, okay? So when a guy feels like, I'm not gonna be in a relationship with this girl, I'm gonna step back and do my thing, and you know, then I'll get back with her later. No. If she's a high-value woman, someone else is going to snatch her shit up, okay? And a guy cannot afford that. So I feel like a guy most of the time is going to jump into a relationship and deal with the fear, you know, day by day. Now, here's the thing. This is why I was putting quotations around it earlier. I feel like most of the time when a guy uses that excuse or says something like that, he's bullshitting you. Again, if the right woman comes along, I don't care who you are, I say this in all my videos, he's going to snatch you up and deal with it, okay, day by day. Deal with his red flags, his insecurities, his fears, things like that. Now, again, there are guys who do fear those things, but most of the time, a majority of the time, I think it's an excuse, because maybe he just doesn't want to be in a relationship with you. And how are you really going to challenge that? Like, how are you really going to challenge a guy saying, you know, I just fear a relationship, I fear commitment, I don't know what I want right now? Like, how are you going to challenge that? All you're going to do is say, I promise I won't cheat on you, I'm not going anywhere, just, you know, stuff. But that shows, you know, you're seeking validation, you're seeking his approval, you're trying to prove yourself to him, and that lowers your value to begin with. So even though you think you're doing something right, you're really not, because you're actually lowering your value by telling him, I'm faithful, I would never do this, I would never do that, I would never leave you, I love you, all these kind of things. The guy's gonna think, okay, well, now this girl, you know, now this girl's a nut. You know, and there's nothing nutty about that, but you know, when you're saying that stuff in the beginning before you're in a relationship, it's kind of, again, you just gotta let it flow naturally, ladies. When you start saying those kind of things, a guy's gonna be like, yeah, she's gonna take away my freedom. Yeah, she's gonna suppress me. I'm not gonna be able to do what I want. You know, even if that's not true, that's how men think. Okay, their biggest fear is their lack of freedom in a relationship, and I don't mean going off and talking to 1,000 women. It's just the feeling in general, the atmosphere. He's gonna feel suppressed. And that's what men actually are fearing when it comes to relationships. It's not the opening up so much. I mean, again, it's there, but I feel like, again, there's no absolute. It's there. There are men out there who fear opening up and it being attached and this and stuff, and then having it all ripped out from them. Happened to me before when I was 20, okay? Big time. But for the most part, I feel like guys use that for, again, this isn't absolute, but I feel like guys use that as an excuse just not to be in a relationship. Because how are you really going to challenge that, you know? Again, if you try to prove yourself, you're lowering your value. So, you know, when a guy says those kind of things, I think he's just kind of BSing you. He's beating around the bush. He's telling you it. So he has an excuse that you probably don't hear often. Now, I know that's a common excuse, but it's not as common as that, you know, I'm just not looking for a relationship right now. It's not you, it's me. All that really common shit. This is uncommon. It's not rare, it's uncommon. And so I think a guy uses this excuse to kind of beat around the bush, not give her a direct answer, and to kind of, you know, again, the idea of saying, I fear this, I fear that, it's not grounded. It's kind of floating up there. It's subjective, depending on the person, okay? So, you know, it's really hard excuse to kind of battle down, and I wouldn't even try to battle it and pin it down and try to make a comeback for it. What's the point of doing it, right? Like, what's the point of that? Again, you're going to lower your value if you do it. I would just give him his space to say, I understand, cool, blah, 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 you know, do your thing, yeah, sure. And then from there, try to win him over casually. Again, naturally. Let it flow naturally. Attraction unfolds naturally. Don't try to force a guy into a relationship when he doesn't want to be in one. Even if he does fear one, don't try to prove yourself or something like that. You shouldn't even have to prove yourself, right? You shouldn't even have to say those kind of things. Even if that guy is damaged, you shouldn't even have to say those kind of things. It should just, again, happen. You should be so full of value, so awesome, so, you know, energetic, high energy, whatever it is. And the guy, it should just happen, and he should be attracted to you naturally, where he just is like, you know what, I like this girl, I'm gonna try it out, okay? So with that being said, it's an excuse most of the time. Yes, there are guys out there who have it, but I feel like even if he did, he would jump into a relationship anyway. Again, there's those hardcore cases where a guy's just like, I'm not about it, but I think it's an excuse. With that being said, I love you, take care, and peace.